Just a moment ago, a disaster more terrifying than an earthquake just rocked the Middle East. This wasn't a threat, it wasn't a simulation, it was real, it was brutal, and it was shocking. Iran launched a missile strike so massive, so calculated, it tore through Israel's defenses like paper in a storm. It wasn't just rockets in the air, it was a message sent through fire and thunder. A message to Israel, to the US, to NATO, and to every nation watching. We are no longer afraid. Over 1,200 projectiles filled the skies. Missiles, suicide drones, decoys, hypersonic variants, all raining down on Israeli soil in waves. The Iron Dome, once considered the pride of Israeli defense, was overwhelmed. For the first time in history, it was cooked, utterly exhausted. It simply couldn't keep up. People in Tel Aviv filmed the sky glowing with fire. Sirens screamed, streets emptied, and the night lit up with more explosions than anyone had ever seen in that region. Strategic air bases, military compounds, power stations, and even civilian infrastructure were hit. Flames engulfed buildings, power went out, communication signals dropped. Israel, the nation known for its swift retaliation and impenetrable defenses, was on its knees, scrambling. But how did Iran manage this? How could they bypass one of the most sophisticated air defense networks in the world? It wasn't just Iran, this was a coordinated strike involving Hezbollah, the Houthis, and proxy militias stretching from Iraq to Syria. It was a regional network acting like a single brain, and that brain had one objective: overwhelm the system. Iran used radar jamming drones, electronic warfare, and swarming tactics. The Iron Dome, built to handle limited rocket fire, was forced to respond to an attack far beyond its capacity. That is exactly what they want you to believe. Take this like a bigger version of Google VO3, and I will explain every inch of it, and in the end, you will know the real truth, covered up with multiple layers of lies, like filters in Photoshop, a makeup masking ugly girl's face, and why it's a profit game in plain sight. Now, what if I told you that this so-called war between Iran and Israel isn't actually a war? Shocking, right? What if I told you it is something completely off the chart and trajectory you're conditioned to believe? Let's peel the layers one after another, shall we? Watch his video, cause we are diving deep into rabbit hole. I will be back afterwards.
Israel just finished bombing Iran, and moments later, I'm not kidding you, moments later,
Moments ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion.
Benjamin Netanyahu has this video out to propagandize Americans about dragging us into what will probably be World War III. And if you don't believe that it's specifically directed at us,
This is a clear and present danger landing on a country the size of New Jersey. Remember, Iran calls Israel the small Satan. It calls America the great Satan.
he even includes a Bible reference
As the Bible teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first.
to try to manipulate the American people into the same shit that we did in Iran.
There is no question whatsoever that Saddam is seeking and is working and is advancing towards the development of nuclear weapons. No question whatsoever.
There were no weapons of mass destruction. They said there are weapons of mass destruction. I was against the war.
The same exact guy. I mean, literally the same dude who tricked the American people and our politicians into fighting a pointless war in Iraq that we got nothing from.
We have spent $2 trillion in Iraq and fighting Iraq. $2 trillion. $2 trillion. Thousands of lives. We got nothing.
Is here manipulating and tricking us into going into World War III. And the same exact premise. I'm not even kidding you.
We will not let the world's most dangerous regime get the world's most dangerous weapons. The increasing range of Iran's ballistic missiles.
Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years.
Would bring that nuclear nightmare to the cities of Europe and eventually to America.
Right. We're just the first way station en route to use.
Threatening the lives not of hundreds, but of millions.
Grieving not for thousands of dead, but for millions.
Remember, Iran calls Israel the small Satan. It calls America the great Satan.
Remember, we're the small Satan, you're the big Satan.
The same exact we're doing it all over again.
Iran cannot have a nuclear enrichment program. It's clear that Iran is
Neither Iran or the United States want to fight each other. It's the Israelis who have been trying to pull the Iranians and the Americans into a fight.
Netanyahu's greatest dream in life is a war between the United States and Iran.
Netanyahu will drag him into the abyss. He wants this war in the Middle East come hell or high water, and it's not in their interest.
What war?
The war with Iran.
We don't want to go to war against Iran. I don't think we should be fighting wars on behalf of Israel.
Make it clear to Netanyahu that he should not be dragging America into war with Iran.
You go fight Iran. We are American people. It's not our problem.
If they start talking to you about fighting a war with Iran, you treat them like an enemy that they are.
We should not go to war in Iran on behalf of Israel.
Against the war with Iran. It's not in America's interest, and many Americans will die, and billions will be spent on a war we don't need to fight.
Everybody wants peace, except Israel.
Trump, by the way, if we're taking a look at him, he had been extremely vocal in the past, for years, by the way, before he even ran for president, about the disaster of our foreign policy in the Middle East. He specifically called out Barack Obama back in 2011 for what he deemed to be an unnecessarily looming conflict with, well, you guessed it, Iran. Take a listen.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran.
Okay, and he kept up that 4 years later, that same rhetoric during the 2015 Republican presidential election debate.
The war in Iraq was a big, fat mistake, all right? Obviously, it was a mistake. So George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. But I want to tell you, they lied. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
And I'm not kidding when I say that this was 8 weeks ago, you guys. Take a listen.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program.
And Trump has this to say about Tulsi Gabbard, who is his director of national intelligence. You can just dismiss what she says, according to Trump. Take a listen.
Mr. President, you've always said that you don't believe Iran should be able to have a nuclear weapon. But how close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having.
What is that, guys? You don't care what your director of national intelligence is telling you? You don't care? Because Bibi Netanyahu, called you up and said, yeah, we need a pretext for war. Like we always need a pretext for. We're constantly bombing and killing people all the time. We're committing a Holocaust in Gaza. Could you just go out there and tell them they were building a nuclear bomb? They weren't. And there's been no evidence of that outside of Bibi Netanyahu's trust me, bro. Because I guess you have to come up with something to make people hysterical to believe that we have this never-ending right to murder human beings. That's what it is. It's a carte blanche that has been handed to Israel to continually murder human beings in the Middle East, to use American soldiers to effect regime changes in the Middle East at the benefit of no one but Israel, okay?
What if this is a mere construct, a well-planned and orchestrated simulation to shake things up a little bit? Pay a very close attention, and in the end you will understand that this whole thing has nothing to do with Israel. It is about something you didn't think of. This is misdirected, and I am blown away. You have heard war is good for business. I call this second clip a marketing strategy and showcasing of advanced technology warfare artillery. Remember that Wolf of the Wall Street, sell me a pen strategy? Watch this clip, attention to details, and I will be back shortly afterwards.
There's this idea that Israel's an impenetrable fortress. They have this missile defense system. They're untouchable. Israel has a few missile defense systems. They have the Iron Dome, they have the David Sling, and they have a series of systems called Arrow. And they have the Terminal High Altitude Defense System by the United States. Iron Dome, which is the most famous one, is just for short-range rockets. This is for short-range, small rockets from Hamas and Hezbollah on the border. They're not going to be using Iron Dome for this. They might use Iron Dome for some of these slow-moving drones. Most of those are being picked off by fighter jets, and the Iron Dome is really meant for rockets, but they'll use Iron Dome against some of the drones. What they're using for the ballistic missiles is the David Sling and the Arrow system. But the problem is that ballistic missiles are much more difficult to intercept than drones and rockets. Ballistic missiles are faster, they're bigger, they go higher up in the air, and when they reach their terminal phase, they're basically unstoppable. So this is why Iran is launching hundreds of ballistic missiles, and they're penetrating the shield. What's more, not only are they more difficult to shoot down, and so the failure rate is much higher for the David Sling and the Arrow than the Iron Dome, but the interceptor missiles that Israel uses to shoot down the ballistic missiles are very difficult to acquire. They're very difficult to procure because the United States doesn't make a lot of them. So if Iran is launching tons of stuff at Israel, Israel's got to shoot all of it down. It's got to shoot 100% of it down. But it's not just Iran, it's also Iraq. It's also the Houthis in Yemen. If Israel's shooting down missiles from Yemen, missiles and drones from Iraq, missiles and drones from Iran, every day they're running out of interceptors. Every time they shoot one of those down, it's extremely expensive. It's costing millions, upwards of billions of dollars. So it costs a lot of money, but we're also running out of the equipment. And so eventually, there's going to be a situation where Iran is making more missiles and has more missiles than Israel has interceptors. And at that point, Israel's completely vulnerable. Israel's just going to get bombarded with ballistic missiles, and there's nothing they could do about it.
We need to look outside the media distraction, beyond the smoking mirrors, beyond the headlines, and go behind the scenes to uncover the real nature of this new world geopolitical chessboard that's unfolding. And believe me when I say this, By the time this drama ends, your entire perception of power, war, peace, and truth will change. Here is the crazy part where they stage debate to put you in the middle and gets into your emotions.
How many nuclear weapons does Iran have as of today?
Right now, I hope none.
Okay, how many does Israel have?
No idea.
No idea? You were in the government. They don't tell you that stuff.
No idea.
Who do they tell?
No idea.
Do you recognize the hypocrisy of Israel having a secret illicit nuclear weapons program that it won't open up its doors to and won't talk about, and then lecturing everyone else in the region about nuclear weapons?
Absolutely not. You know why?
You talked about hypocrisy. If an Iranian guest came on my show and I asked him about Iran's nuclear program, he said, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about it. Would you be okay with that? You'd be outraged.
Of course
and
I would
you
be.
sit here as a former
Of course
minister
I
of
would
the
be,
Israeli
because-
government saying, oh, I don't know, I never talked about nukes with anyone.
Because there was like 16 United Nations Security Council resolutions against Iran.
And there is against Israel. And there is against Israel as well.
About
your nuclear
issues?
program.
No.
Yes, there is. UN Resolution 487. Let me read it to you. The UN Security Council in 1981 says, calls upon Israel urgently to place its nuclear facilities under the safeguards of the IAEA. Why haven't you done that?
Because...
Now here is the kicker. Listen to this. They picked an old man. Why? Because it fits the narrative perfectly. Go ahead and watch.
Iran has never attacked a neighbor. Israel has repeatedly attacked its neighbors. Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has refused to sign. Iran submits to inspection by the International Nuclear Energy Agency. Israel refuses to submit. Iran has no nuclear weapons. Israel has between 75 and 400 nuclear weapons. So Israel poses an existential threat to Iran. For the last 40 years, Israel has conducted a systematic campaign of disinformation about Iran. Why the lies? Why the double standards? Why the hypocrisy?
Now you are calling America and Israel the devil if read your mind correctly, and Iran the saint in between, right? Absolutely, but the devil have a mind of its own. However, here is where it gets freaking insane. You will be shocked to know this fact in the next clip I will be sharing with you. Watch it and I will be right back.
I don't know, wouldn't it be crazy if America started the Iranian nuclear program in the first place? Born in the USA, how America created Iran's nuclear program. Every damn time. And this goes way further back than Obama. Yes, Obama gave the new Ayatollah a shit ton of money. We'll get to that. This goes back to 1957. Funny, that's right around the time that NASA was created, the United Nations. God, we were busy little beavers back then. Yeah, so it was actually America provided Iran with its first research reactor, 5 megawatt nuclear reactor. No, I won't say nuclear, correct, because frankly at this point they should just change how it's spelt. And then in 1967, the US built the nuclear reactor on the campus of Tehran University. It also gave them uranium. I mean, America did. Just to be clear, America gave Iran uranium. Let's move on. This was part of President Eisenhower's Atoms for Peace program. Was that really the name of it? Holy. So countries received small reactors, dollops of fuel. Dollops of fuel? Yeah, I'll get a dollop of uranium, please. And some tzatziki sauce. And then actually the Shah at the time sent a bunch of Iranian students to attend Massachusetts Institute of Technology in order to study nuclear engineering. So we taught them how to do it as well at our universities here in the West. I mean, there's Eisenhower and his old buddy, the Shah, you know, chilling. Again, so yes, the majority of people who run the nuclear program are American educated. Nice. Then, of course, the Shah was brought down in the Iranian Revolution. Shout out Argo. Yo, Ben Affleck, if you ever need like a body double, I got you. I got you on that. Basically, the guy that came in after the revolution, he said they wouldn't use it because it's toxic West, yada yada. Fast forward all the way to the 90s, okay? And you have Iran at war with Iraq. They needed energy. They were suffering blackouts. They decided to kick off their nuclear program again. And then that brings us up to now where we have the current regime in power. Also thanks to America. I mean, Obama did give Iran hundreds of millions of dollars, or billions. Was it billions? Anyways, money's not real. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything else to do here except say the Spider-Man meme. Spider-Man meme, you know where they're pointing? The three Spider-Mans are pointing at each other. That's all. Have a good one.
After bombing Iran tonight, bringing the U.S. directly into this war in flagrant violation of international and domestic law, Trump gave this deranged speech.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror.
Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. Even Trump's own intelligence agencies said Iran wasn't building a bomb. You know who does have nuclear weapons? Israel and the U.S. And the U.S. has used them on civilians, incinerating hundreds of thousands in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And since World War II, the U.S. has directly murdered nearly 10 million people in its wars in Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and backed the murder of tens of millions more, supporting death squads, dictatorships, proxy wars throughout the world. Tell me again who's the world's #1 state sponsor of terror?
For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East.
Apparently this lying motherfucker is now trying to blame Iran for what happened in Iraq. Yes, after illegally invading and occupying Iraq, some American troops were killed by roadside bombs. Most of those bombs were planted by Sunni forces, not the Shiite militias backed by Iran. As for hundreds of thousands killed in the Middle East, it's the U.S., not Iran, the U.S. that murdered nearly 1 million people in Iraq.
This cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left.
And here we get to the heart of Trump's gangster fascist speech. Do what we say or else. Forget about Iran's sovereignty. Forget about the fact that you're supposed to get congressional approval to start a war. Forget about the danger of escalation, even world war this poses. It's just raw, destructive power. Again, tell me who's the world's #1 state sponsor of terror? As the revolutionary leader Bob Avakian said,
"We can no longer afford to allow these imperialists to dominate the world and to determine the destiny of humanity. They need to be overthrown as quickly as possible."
Everyone, everywhere, into the streets. Stop the U.S.-Israeli war of aggression against Iran. The Trump fascist regime must go now.
So a lot of people are saying that Israel's trying to get the United States into a war with Iran, but it's actually more complicated than that. The United States wants to get into a war with Iran. Here's why. So back in 1971, Nixon took us off of the gold standard because, well, we were printing more money than we had backed by gold. All of our allies called us on it. We knew we didn't have the gold to pay them, so Nixon just took us off the gold standard. But since the dollar was no longer backed by gold, we had to back it with something else. So Nixon negotiated the OPEC petrodollar, where he ensured that all the Middle Eastern nations would trade oil using US dollars, which created an artificial demand for the dollar even though it wasn't backed by anything. This is the reason that we were able to remain the global reserve currency and protect the dollar despite the fact that it was worthless. Decades went by and we needed to ensure that oil would always be traded in dollars, so we got involved in coup after coup and war after war. Wars like the ones in Afghanistan, Iraq, we assassinated Gaddafi from Libya, all people who threatened to trade oil in something other than the dollar. Iran's doing the same thing today, as well as China supporting Iran because, well, they want to be the global reserve currency, not the United States. Now, since we've been applying so much pressure to China and the entire region for the course of the last 50 years or so, China has tried to establish the Belt and Road Initiative, which is something that they mean to use to undermine the dollar's global reserve currency by establishing a trade monopoly in the entire hemisphere. You can see it there on that video. Interesting enough, Bibi Netanyahu, a month before the October 7th terrorist attacks happened in Israel, announced the IMEC corridor, which is meant to go through Saudi Arabia from India and to the port of Haifa in Israel. Now, we all know what happened exactly a month later. There was this terrorist attack, what appeared to be a stand down, which Bibi Netanyahu has used to justify it, basically wiping out every breathing thing in the Gaza Strip. The reason they're committing a genocide over there? Well, it's because can't establish a trade corridor through the port of Haifa if Haifa, like in this video, is always being bombed by terrorists. So they decided that there was no two-state solution. What they were going to do was just coax them in to commit a terrorist attack and then use that atrocity as an excuse to just annihilate and evacuate everyone from the region to secure Israel for the sake of establishing the trade route to compete with China and save the US dollar. So does Israel want a war with Iran? Absolutely. They stand to make a lot of money off of this IMEC corridor. But so does the United States. The United States wants this war with Iran because it will be a proxy war with China, which will allow us to establish the IMEC corridor and save the fake dollar for the time being and remain the global reserve currency. So ultimately, all these conflicts in the Middle East have nothing to do with democratic values or religious ideals. They have everything to do with money, money, money.
I'm certain that you are seeing the trajectory that the real projectile missile is going that's contrary to public perception and deception. If you still doubts, here is the bunker that dropped the technology that gets everyone talking, and this will further deepens your knowledge about the proxy drama trigger fingers. Watch this clip and the puzzles changes yet again, and I will be back afterwards.
Israeli media says Iran has fired one of its biggest ballistic missiles for the first time, and it might have come from China, and linking this to two Chinese Xi'an Y-20 cargo planes that landed in Iran a few days ago. The planes suddenly disappeared from radar before landing, making the whole thing even more suspicious. Earlier today, the Iranian military simply shared a photo of a Sigil missile. Assuming that this was the Sigil missile that was fired then, Iran has for the first time sent a 23-ton missile to Israel. It's unclear what the target of the missile was. The missile travels at speeds higher than Mach 15 and his nuclear-capable medium-range ballistic missile. It travels at such high speeds with so much heat that, and it ionizes the air around it, creating plasma, which is the effect seen in the sky. Military experts say this could be a major escalation, showing Iran is now willing to deploy its most advanced and destructive weapons. So far, it's unclear where the missile was aimed or what damage it may have caused, but this is the most dangerous missile Iran has ever used in real combat.
That's fascinatingly shocking. Chinese products are fake, but their hypersonic missile is the Iran strike at Tel Aviv that is shaking up the internet, that strikes its target with surgical precision. And even more importantly, Chinese are fighting US using Iran, while US is using Israel to fight China back. I will summarize it in the end, and then you will understand why they say war is good for business. You will see who's really profiting. You will know who the real villains are, and most importantly, you'll finally see what this is all about.
Russia just said that the U.S. lied about Iran pursuing nuclear weapons. Now, why would the U.S. attack them if they lied about nuclear weapons? It makes no sense. It can't be because they have literally 87% export of oil to China, or maybe it's the fact that they sell that oil on a currency that's not the U.S. dollar, or maybe, no, it can't be that. It's also not the fact that Iran is, one of the only countries left besides North Korea that isn't attached to a central bank. It's probably none of that. Wait a second. Weren't there 5 other countries that were attached to a central bank that the U.S. went to war with and demolished completely? Oh yeah, like Libya, like Iraq, Afghanistan, Cuba. Ring a bell? Now there's only 2 left that we haven't gone to war with? Iran and North Korea. And suddenly, we're fucking bombing them? Yeah, it sounds like it's not about nuclear weapons, is it? Sounds like it's more about fucking money and control. But the narrative, guys, weapons of mass destruction, it worked for a 20-year war in Iraq and Afghanistan. It better work for this one in Iran. It's the same thing. Run it back. Terrorism. Run it back. Guys are running the same plays over and over and over again. You know why? Because people are so fucking dumb. They believe it every time. Maybe if you guys weren't so fucking stupid, maybe they wouldn't feel so confident going to war. But wait. I don't think you're stupid. So maybe we should share this and let them know none of us are stupid.
Why there is war in the Middle East and why Islam and Muslims keep getting blamed. People always ask, why is there always war in the Middle East? Is it because of religion? Is it because of culture, chaos? What is it? No, it's really none of those things for the most part. At the root, it's about money, land, and power. So let's break it down. Number 1, natural resources equals wealth. The Middle East holds over 50% of the world's oil and gas reserves. That's trillions of dollars in energy and control over global markets. So when you hear about spreading democracy or fighting terrorism, it usually means protecting access to resources, not people. Foreign powers have always interfered, not to bring peace, but to secure energy and profit. Number 2, strategic location. The Middle East connects Africa, Europe, and Asia. It's the world's bridge, quite literally. Control this region, and you control shipping lanes, trade routes, and military positioning across continents. That's why the region is always unstable. Instability gives powerful nations a reason to stay involved. Number 3, colonial borders equals engineered division. After World War I, European powers drew artificial borders in the region of the Middle East, dividing tribes, breaking up unity, and setting up weak puppet governments. The goal, you ask? Keep the region fractured so it's easier to control. What we're seeing now is the aftershock of colonization colonization that really never ended. Number 4, occupation and land theft. Let's speak plainly here. Palestine is under occupation. Homes are bulldozed, land is seized, and generations live under military rule. This isn't about security. It's about expansion and control of land with deep religious and geopolitical value. And when people resist, they're labeled terrorists. But what would you do if someone took your land, erased your identity, and bombed your home? Number 5, war equals business. Here's the dirty truth. War is profitable. The US and its allies sell billions in weapons to the region every year. As long as bombs drop, defense contractors cash checks. Peace doesn't pay, but chaos keeps that money flowing. So why blame Islam and the Muslims? It's simple. You can't invade countries, steal resources, and bomb civilians unless you convince the world that those people are the enemy. That's why Islam is constantly portrayed as violent, oppressive, and dangerous. But the truth? Islam forbids oppression. Islam honors justice and protects innocent life. Islam stands firmly against greed, corruption, and colonialism.
Nothing but the unfiltered truth you won't find wrapped together like this in one place. I'm not a journalist, I'm not a politician, I'm a mechanic, but one trained to diagnose complex problems. My strength isn't politics, my strength is pattern recognition. Just like a bad engine misfires from a single faulty component, this entire geopolitical chaos also traces back to a single recurring fault line. I follow the strain of the root pattern, one that already exists, one that's been established over decades. You see, strategy is not about opinions. It's about connecting the dots. And that's exactly what I'm about to do with you. So bear with me, and let's dive.
Guys, Iran does not need to attack America directly for America to feel it, or for the world to feel it for that matter. Iran's parliament today voted to close the Strait Hormuz. For reference, this is the Strait of Hormuz. It is a vital shipping channel which over 20% of the world's oil flows through daily. If Iran's Supreme Court approves of this, that means that $1 billion worth of oil shipments would be blocked every day, which would cause oil prices to soar. This would cause economic catastrophe. The cost for food and medicine would rise. People who are just making it would fall into extreme levels of poverty. People are getting on TikTok talking about, oh, the US has the best defense system and beating the drums of war. You guys don't understand. You're playing checkers, they're playing chess. Iran has positioned themselves in a very strategic position, and they are using this position to bring global order, to make Israel and the US back down. The amount of boys getting on TikTok going like, I'm ready for war. Like, I just know that you had to sit next to your teacher during class, because history does not start when you decide to pay attention.
Now let's ask the hard questions. Does Iran have nuclear weapons? Does it even matter if it does? Why is the world so obsessed with preventing Iran from having one? Let me give you the mechanic's answer. Every sovereign nation should possess nuclear weapons. Why? Because only nuclear warheads ensure one thing: you are not at the mercy of global bullies and economic titans. So, if you look through history, you'll notice something, right? Japan had to be nuked twice, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, before the United States really got their message across in World War II. Libya, under Gaddafi, had no nukes. The West came in, destabilized it, and Gaddafi was executed. Iraq, Saddam Hussein, no nukes. America invaded based on weapons of mass destruction that, well, were never found. Afghanistan, rich in rare minerals, no nukes. Invaded and occupied for, 2 decades. Nigeria, full of oil and gold, no nukes, constantly destabilized through proxy systems, aid traps, and economic blackmail. You see the pattern now? Any resource-rich nation that doesn't possess nukes is honestly at the mercy of the global order. This war is not about religion, not about Zionism or Islam, not about Palestine or Persia. It's about control, it's about geopolitical territory, and most dangerously, it's about preventing the rise of new power centers. So, Iran is one of the last nations in the region that absolutely refuses to be a puppet of the West. It aligns itself with both Russia and China, which is, a pretty significant move. Iran's got the industrial know-how to develop nuclear weapons, thought by America. Israel Iron Dome missile defense systems were sold by American government to Israel for proxy wars, and of course the know-how in nukes. Iran possesses massive oil reserves that worth $1 trillion. Not selling to America but to China in Chinese currency is a sin in American government book. What will America do? Call Iran and say we're sending missile strike on your nuke facility? Evacuated immediately, we coming in hot, and guess what? This happened, watch it. Not even a fly was hit by American missile strike at Iran.
Most people saw the explosions in Iran and thought that it's just another Middle East war. But if you can manage to filter through propaganda, you'll find that it's actually America fighting China. When Israel launched its surprise attack on Iran, US military assets were already in position to help. That definitely wasn't a coincidence, because Iran isn't just Iran anymore. It's become China's most important partner in the Middle East. Here's what actually drives these dirty Washington wars. Iran joined China's BRICS alliance and started selling its oil in yuan instead of dollars. That single move threatens the entire US financial system that's propped up by oil dollars. The US response is to use Israel as their attack dog. Even former officials openly call Israel America's unsinkable aircraft carrier in the region. Biden sent $18 billion in weapons, Trump approved another $3 billion and gave the green light to bomb Tehran. Meanwhile, China is watching restlessly because Iran is at the center of their plan for a new Silk Road. If they break Iran, China's influence will be significantly limited. That's why this war just doesn't feel right. The missiles might be falling on Tehran, but the real target is in Beijing.
So Iran has come out and stated that all three sites were empty. All three of them. Wow. This is unbelievable. You mean to tell me that we wasted all of these resources for what? Empty sites. They came out and stated that they had emptied those sites beforehand weeks ago because they knew it was coming.
Even more shocking, the final clip that nailed it all, and you will be wondering how all this was strategically scripted. And I wasn't surprised, as that's a repeated pattern of the war between Russia and Ukraine. The empty building bears the grunge between two political rival rage. That $1 million taxpayers' money that just don't seem right to feed the poor and improve welfare is used to crash a building. This is a perfect misdirection of reality, using simulation to demonstrate aggression over refusal of that pile of Iran-rich minerals, what, to top it off, holds rare mineral wealth. And it's steadily building influence in places like Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen.
I believe this is largely theater at the top. It would be asinine to believe that it is impossible that USA, Israel, and Iran got on a fucking phone call and said, let's talk about how this is gonna go down. You need to look good, I need to look good, you need to look good. So Trump, you get to take out our nuclear facilities. We're not gonna make a nuclear bomb anyway. So if you wanna this empty crater somewhere in the mountains, you get to and look like a tough guy. We can't look like pussies after, so we're gonna retaliate against one of your air bases, this air base over here, because if we look like pussies, then there's gonna be riots and our government's gonna change. We have to look like we're protecting our people. Israel, you fire rockets at us, we're gonna fire a whole barrage of shit back at you, but nothing's really gonna blow up. There'll be an odd explosion here or there in the distance somewhere, caught on a camera phone. I mean, with 50 ballistic missiles in a city as densely populated as Tel Aviv, there should be thousands of deaths. Where are they? There's none of it, because it is a big orchestrated play.
Okay, Andrew Tate just asked one of the most uncomfortable questions right there, which a lot of people are just sitting on, but you don't understand. Where are thousands of dead bodies? You can't strike a whole Tel Aviv and devastate the buildings and the lot, and there is no thousands of dead body litters everywhere. The same pattern has repeated between Russian war in Ukraine. So the reality you folks are missing here is that we have new actors of the newest generation Hollywood blockbuster. In my critical analysis, the new generation movie stars have risen. A lot of people don't really understand. Your politicians are the new stars, Hollywood blockbusters. And guess who are the filmography, the people who are doing the camera job? You and I. You are the one. Why do you buy your phone so expensive just to have a flashy cameras? Take a look at it. Most of the pictures and the videos floating on the internet is captured by people using their smartphones, and a big distraction from what's going on in Gaza. And before I go, this is the kicker. There are a lot of different government hidden facilities out there that is building different war artilleries that cost billions. Power is not something that you have. It intoxicates you. And when you start intoxicating these people, what do you think? So how on earth did you show that all these missiles, all this defense system works without creating a situation like this to put people in the middle so that they can buy them. That's why they told you that war is good for business, because this is how they create the urge to buy the semi-pen tactics. They have to set up a situation like this to actually test them. So this is those kind of market where everything sells. They get you glued to your screen, your emotion soars. You go to YouTube, everywhere is raining with content, a lot of engagement is going on and things is blowing out of proportion. That, my friend, is a great business and a great business strategy that sells in volumes a lot and get a lot of you, even more importantly, distracted, because that is how politicians thrive. I shared all those clips for you guys to watch and see the thick lies and untold harsh truths that is hiding in the fabric of the very society you're living in, and yet the truth is here to be unraveled. Iran launched the most brutally devastating attack on Israel ever recorded in history. But where are the casualties? Where are the thousands of dead bodies? Why is it missing in the scene of the drama? That's the question, uncomfortable question, which a lot of you people should be asking. Just like it happened between Russia and Ukraine, here is the kicker. Have you ever wondered what is the latest generation of the movie Blockbusters and ads? Your laptop phones have newer generations. War is good for business, they say, is a strategy, a plot twist of misrepresented situations, misdirection, display by our politicians, because they are your new Hollywood blockbuster stars, actors. They create chaos and capitalize on it to sell ads on social media's newsfeed, more importantly, to sell arms that cost billions. How do you suppose America can show off the latest technology in warfare artillery like missile defense systems as much as hypersonic missile? Not to forget China. Before the arms sells, it doesn't sell in war like it will sell if it's displayed the way it was used to devastate Tel Aviv high-rise buildings. So realistically, this is a digital display that cost billions to pull off such stunts like that of Iran versus Israel, and it's turned on so you glue to your screen to see how colossal the devastating an impact could be. Sometimes it could actually claim some life, but the politicians really don't care. Some have to write the scripts. And I think that is where a lot of people, miss it, because you don't know who actually is behind writing the script and blowing up different headlines. And everything starts selling. Oil, weapons, ad, cable subscriptions to stay up to date. And isn't it shocking to you that the Iran nuclear site is completely empty and the US hypersonic missile didn't hit a fly? Is it a coincidence? So it's by using existing protocol to set example, which will psychologically transfer the information to other nations who doesn't possess such kinds of powerful weapons, and it will create the urge for them to buy. And that is what they mean by war is good for business.
War, well, is very good for business. Every missile launched means more defense contracts. Every bomb dropped brings more oil price fluctuations. Every destroyed hospital, honestly, turns into $1 billion reconstruction deal. Every dead soldier, sadly, becomes more justification for funding the next arms race. And who pays for all this? Civilians, nurses, mothers, children. Let me leave you with this. The real villain is not Israel. The real villain is not Iran. The real villain is the invisible machine profiting from both. So it's the system, that says peace is weakness. It's the system that sells democracy by dropping bombs. It silences nations who don't comply. And it turns every war into a stock market victory. In the end, we are all getting played, same way the blockbuster movies played us all. And people sustained in injuries, just like your superstars actors like Tom Cruise and Vin Diesel got injured during a movie set. I'm not saying all war and crisis are staged, just lots of them aren't what you think it is. If you think differently, let me know your thoughts in comments section. Thanks for watching and sharing your opinions. Bye for now. I will see you in the next episode.